Welcome back to the Unraveled Podcast. My name is Nina.
And my name's Alina.
And today we want to talk about
New construction. Let's do new construction.
Okay. But specifically, why it's important to have your own representation
Okay.
when you're buying new construction.
Okay.
So let me tell you a story. And the reason why I want to talk about this. I met a client this year who had purchased new construction a couple years back. I was not her realtor at the time. And long story short, the builder had told her, no need to get an inspection. You have a year warranty, so on and so forth. Well, so she closed. And then after that had so many issues. Turns out a lot of the walls didn't have insulation. There were leaks, moisture intrusion, settling. I mean, all the stuff that typically takes years and years and years to happen was all happening almost immediately. She was requesting the items to be repaired, and there is a year. They pushed it all the way till the 9th month. And by that point, there was additional damage that had occurred because of the first damage, but then that secondary damage was not covered. So
This is what the insurance company?
with the insurance, but then
no, the
also
warranty.
the builder's warranty.
Okay.
And so this is why it's important to have your own representation. And I know a lot of times you'll see a property listed that's new construction, and an easy thing to do is to go directly to the agent who's listing it. And as somebody who has listed new construction, I'm still telling you the listing agent is representing the builder. And sometimes the builder is reputable, sometimes they're not. But if you don't have your own agent negotiating for you and representing you, you just don't know that you might be taken advantage of.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on the new construction process and what a buyer should be aware of?
So usually when my clients are like, I want to do new construction, I have to give them the whole spiel and tell them, like, here's what to expect. Here's what to prepare for. Everybody loves new construction because it's new. You want to be the first one in there. Everybody likes new. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. But realistically, when you're the first person in there, you're the one experiencing all the problems. Because the house hasn't been lived in before for the person before you to have gotten those items fixed or to experience the issues. So that's one huge thing that people have to realize when they're buying new construction is you're the first one in there. You're going to be the first one to experience all the problems. Mm-hmm. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's perfect.
Yeah.
But it's less, and honestly, people think it's less likely to have issues because it's new, but that's not true. Mm-hmm. That's not true at all. Because it's new, no one's tested it out to tell how it's going to do. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the first reality that people have to realize when they're buying new construction. Be mindful of that. I would buy the house that I bought was probably built in 2014, I think. So it's still got that newer feel to it, a lot of the newer finishes, but it's been lived in for over 10 years that I'm at the point where I haven't had any issues with my house, really very like washer dryer, small things, but I haven't had any issues that I've really had to experience because the previous owner already went through all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the warranty is great, but they offer a warranty because they understand everything is new and they don't know how they're going to function. Mm-hmm. So I think that's very important.
Yeah. And also, I mean, look at reviews about the builder too, whether it's a subdivision
that's so true.
Or a custom home builder. Look at reviews. There should be some.
And even if there's not, talk to other people in the community.
Yeah. If there's multiple homes, ask other homeowners how they like that build. If there's a home builder with no reviews, typically that's a red flag of some sort. That might be a brand new company name.
Agreed.
Because they were previously going to be sued. So they closed that down and, started a new company.
And let me elaborate a little more on that. So basically what happens is which I'll go back to Nina mentioning before that it's important to have a builder who's reputable and who does a lot of houses. Sometimes you'll work with these small builders who can easily screw up a job and screw up a house that you purchased, and they close down that business and create a whole nother LLC, and then you can't go back and sue them or try to get the problem resolved because you can only sue the company that they built the house with. So I think that's very important that you hire someone who is reputable and who's going to build you a house, and not even just build it, but warrant their work.
Yeah, I mean, and I know, and I've seen great builds both on the custom home side and the larger, subdivision side. So there's plenty of good ones out there, but so that's why it's important to have your own realtor, because otherwise, how are you supposed to know? Unless you really want to do all that research and go through, but some of the research is not available online. Sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes it's through experience that an agent will be able to guide you. Oh, okay, let's not do this neighborhood. Let's do this neighborhood.
Right. But also an experienced realtor who's hopefully worked with in the new construction industry a lot. I know for myself, there's one builder that does a lot in a lot of the counties, and I've done a lot of business with them. I've sold a lot of their houses, so I'm very familiar with the process, and I'm very familiar with the fact that they are reputable because I've sold a lot of their houses.
Yeah, and it's kind of like there's different steps too. Inspections that should be had, even if there's a warranty, it doesn't matter. You should still get your own inspector. They're going to say that there's the builder inspection, but that person is also working for the builder. There was somebody in my office that went through an experience a couple months back to where their client was offering on a new construction home, and the contract they sent back was the builder's contract. And she read through the whole thing, and there was some fine print that said, all agents, including her, are representatives of the builder. They were trying
what in the world?
They were trying to weasel that into the contract, and somebody could just sign that, and then the buyer would be sued because screwed because
they wouldn't have any representation.
Correct. And so it's important to not only hire the right person, but then make sure that person is also doing the work for you, reading through all those contracts.
Right.
Really, if you're buying a property, you should be reading all those contracts too.
Agreed.
But if you are not, then you at the very least have to hire someone who will.
And the thing is, the last several new construction I've done, it hasn't been on a builder's contract. It's been on our normal JR forms. And if I'm having to draft an offer on a builder's contract, I will literally tell my client, I'm not familiar with these contracts. And I'm going to read over it and review it, but quite honestly, I can't advise you on it because I'm not familiar with this. This is not our normal forms. So if you're curious or concerned, you honestly need to go to an attorney to kind of talk through it because these aren't our documents.
And again, though, the right realtor will be able to connect you with a real estate attorney.
Correct.
Who maybe for a very affordable price because of their affiliation or...
Exactly. And I've done that before numerous times.
To where it's like, they can read through and say, hey, it looks good, or hey, check out this page.
But what I'm not going to do is advise you on a contract that I don't know anything about, that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. And then that shows a good agent too. Because if an agent is not familiar and they don't read the documents and they're still like, oh yeah, it looks
just
great.
Just type and sign it, right?
Then what are you signing?
There's a real reason they have their own contract. It's because they don't want to use our forms.
And it's because they are trying to protect the builder.
Exactly. And 90% of the time, every builder contract that I review, it literally only has terms in there to protect them.
And again, I have worked with buyers that bought so much new construction. And the majority of the time, it works out fine. The majority of the time, everything goes smoothly. If there's any kind of repair after the fact, we get that sorted out. The contract looks fine. The seller's protected. The buyer's protected. But there are occasions where that's not the case. And you just have to be prepared. And they will offer you also, if you come directly to us, you'll get this type of compensation. And you want to ask yourself, is that
why are they doing it that way?
That couple thousand difference, is that worth maybe tens of thousands down the road? Because I understand if you're a first-time home buyer or just, downsizer, or even if you're upsizing, you think, oh, well, I want those extra $1,000 towards my closing costs. I don't need to hire a realtor. But remember, you kind of weigh the pros and cons because if you don't have your representation, your $5,000 of credit or $3,000 or whatever they offered you.
And what good is that when you're having to spend $10,000 on foundation issues?
No. And I guess I've just heard a lot of the horror stories. So
trust me, I know. I had one client where she bought a new construction home at the time. It was back in 2018. And after she closed on it, I don't know how far after she closed on it, septic issues. The builder had to replace a septic tank, water intrusion in the basement because the house was like sitting here. The driveway is up here and it's like sloping down. So she had water intrusion from that. Like just so many issues after issues after issues. And to the point where the builder wasn't covering anything anymore, that she had to go sue her insurance company to get those items fixed. And then because she sued her insurance company, her insurance dropped her, so then she couldn't get homeowners insurance anymore.
Wow.
And she had to get like I think it's like the government homeowners insurance that automatically comes in if you can't get homeowners insurance. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. But that insurance is ridiculously expensive. I'm talking about like $500 a month. So then because of that, she couldn't afford a house anymore. So then she had to sell her house.
So don't let that be you.
Right.
Here's something else that happened. Happened to a colleague of mine, and I don't think you would automatically think that this would be a problem. So someone bought a new construction home. Everything seemed to be going well. But then, long story short, where the lot line was, the builder built the house 1/3 into the other person's lot.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a 1/2 acre lot, so quite large. I don't know why they had to build it
like that, yeah.
But where the property line was on the neighbor's lot, there was 1/3 of the house sticking out. So it was a whole situation to where technically they own only the part of the house that was on their land. It was a mess.
What? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what did they... Like, what do you even do in a situation like that?
It's currently a lawsuit.
With the builder?
With the builder.
The neighbor,
the realtor.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Because technically, part of the realtor's job is to look at the plat, which is basically, if you look at the overview of the neighborhood, a survey is done to show where your lot line really goes. You can look on the tax records and Q Public and generally see, but that is not accurate.
But the problem I feel like with new construction, though, a lot of the times they have a subdivision plat and not just a...
But they have to, in order to get it recorded. So when they're parceling out the different...
They have to have individuals.
Yep. So will they give it to you and offer it? No. But you can get it.
Interesting.
So
probably give it to you or offer it. It doesn't matter because it's going to be recorded at the courthouse. But normally the first one they're usually always immediately ready to provide is the subdivision one.
Yeah, and that's fine. But then it doesn't show where the house is located within that lot. So, I mean, you can ask the attorney as part of the title work to review that document because technically that title should not have closed.
You're actually right. So it's a lot of people's fault that it didn't have it.
But again, technically the first thing to look at is the realtor should have asked for that document. And you wouldn't think that would happen. You think, oh great, I'm buying this great new house, beautiful, the neighborhood's beautiful, but little do you know, your house might be in someone else's lot.
Oh my gosh, I've seen some crazy stuff and...
Or even, here's another one. A builder offered a client to buy a house, same neighborhood, for $40,000 cheaper. And we thought, what's the catch? Well, looked it up. It's in the flood zone. Not only is it in the flood zone, but
the house was built where it's...
Oh, yes. All the drainage from the entire neighborhood flows. Right.
Which at that point, I feel like you could sue the builder because they're not disclosing... They didn't disclose that.
Well, we didn't move forward on that house.
Right, but I'm just thinking in general, like that's pertinent information that people need to know if they're going to buy that house. And with them knowing that, that's like, I feel like they could be sued over that.
I don't know. I'm not an attorney.
They probably just open up another LLC.
I don't know. I'm not an attorney. All I knew was what was the catch? Same floor plan, same square footage. Why is this $40,000 cheaper? But if you're a buyer, right? Unless you really know all this stuff, you think, oh, great, $40,000 cheaper. I got a great deal. But then when you hit rainy season, which we have lots of rain in Georgia, and all the water from the neighborhood is draining to your foundation, forget about
problems, it. Right?
So things like that. There's so many, and I'm not trying to scare anybody, but there's just things to keep in mind.
Right.
Why it's important to have your representation. And, I mean, if you're a great builder, then you should be happy to have,
buyers with buyer's agents.
Agents cooperating and bringing clients and buyers,
Most of the time they are.
Absolutely. That's why I said there's more good than that. Definitely. You just have to be prepared just in case.
Totally agree.
So, do you have any crazy new construction stories?
No, I've actually got one under contract. It's closing next week, but I haven't, and I did one earlier towards the end of last year, but I hadn't really done a ton.
Or maybe if it's not new construction per se, but do you have a crazy story of where because they didn't have representation, something went sideways, or because
Yes.
they had representation, you caught it? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Let me think if I want to tell this story or not. I got to remember all the details because it's been like probably 2 years. Okay. It wasn't representation, but they didn't want a home inspection. I was selling a house and I was representing my clients as the sellers. And then these people, I won't say these people, they were kind of like in my pipeline.
Okay.
And they were looking for a house and I sent them my listing and they ended up liking it. So they made an offer on it. And I represented them as a customer. And I was very clear to them, like, I cannot represent you. I'm already representing the clients. I'm literally just drafting documents on your behalf. I cannot advise you or anything. And they ended up not getting a home inspection on the home. And it was kind of newer construction. Like it was like my clients kind of built it themselves. Like they had their own contractors. They did everything. And not that there was anything wrong with it. Like the house looked fine. It looked perfect. So they didn't even have any issues with the house. Later on, after they closed, there was I don't remember what it was. Like maybe the septic tank wasn't where they thought it was, or it was something strange. I don't remember. And they were trying to come after me and the sellers because of whatever it was. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you because, you guys didn't get a home inspection. You didn't do this. You didn't do this. And I didn't advise you to, but I did ask if you were doing these things and you chose not to do them. So I can't really say much other than that.
Yeah. I mean, there's even times where everyone does what they're supposed to do, at least on one side.
Right.
And there's still mistakes or things that were not disclosed. Last year, I had a client purchase a house, and in the listing description, it said sewer. And on the Q Public records, there was no indication of any kind of septic. So we proceeded as if it was sewer. There was no indication whatsoever. Long story short, it was indeed a septic tank where the entire system needed to be replaced. The seller and the agent did not disclose.
They did not. What about the disclosure? Did the disclosure have checked off as sewer?
Sewer. City sewer.
Even though that was intentional?
I don't know because they were not my client, So I don't know
fair.
if the agent knew or not, because it could be that the seller just lied and told the agent.
That's true.
We don't know, but now, there's going to be a lawsuit because, and it's funny, you could look up the property in, the closed MLS and it'll show closed. It still shows city sewer. I'm like, you are so dumb. I mean.
We can't go back and change it after it's been closed. That's probably why.
So the bottom line is things can still happen, right? I was able to point them in the direction of what next steps would be. So imagine if that can happen with representation, all the different things you have to look out for. Because a lot of times you have to realize the other party, the builder, the seller, they might be lying. You just never know.
They only have their own interests in mind.
Yeah. So that's why you need to have an agent that has your interest in mind.
Correct. Correct.
So.
And who's going to educate you and help you throughout the entire process.
So.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Well, I think that wraps us up for this episode. Thank you for joining us. We will release a new episode every Wednesday. You can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. We also have the video on YouTube, and you can follow us on social media as well. Thanks for watching.